Now we move to the final video of this chapter. This time we will talk about the margin of safety. Now the margin of safety, it tells you by how much are you beyond the break-even point. So this time we are so far from break-even point, but we want to know by how much are we far from break-even. Now it can be expressed in units, in pesos, or as a percentage of sales. So, for example, here, if we want to break even, we just need to cover 24,000. This is just an example. So, if break even, we just want our fixed costs to be equal to our contribution margin so that we have 0 here. Now, if we want to compute for the break-even point in units, what we can do is, in units, applying the formula, we divide the fixed cost by the contribution margin per unit, which is 30 per unit. That will give us 800 units. Meaning, to break even, we need 800 units. Obviously, in this scenario, we are not breaking even. In fact, we have operating income amounting to 12,000 here. But I just need to stress a point so that you can understand the margin of safety. Okay. And then, if you want break even in pesos, we apply the formula, fixed costs, divided by the contribution margin ratio, which was 30% earlier. That will give us 80,000 pesos. So, meaning if we want to reach break-even, our sales should be 80,000 pesos. Okay. Now, how will the margin of safety come in? Obviously, here we exceeded the break-even point in pesos. Okay. And the difference here of 120 and 80 is actually your margin of safety. You can also do that in units. What you can do is the break-even point in units is 800. Subtract that from 1,200, which is the actual number of units that was sold. Then that will be your margin of safety in units. So looking at that, okay, margin of safety in pesos is just 100 minus 80. That'll be 20,000. Meaning our sales exceeded the break-even point by 20,000, and that is why we have income. And then if you want to present your margin of safety as a percentage, you can follow this formula. We just divide we just subtract the expected sales minus break-even sales divided by the expected sales. Or if we apply what our case showed us in the previous slide, okay, your expected sales earlier in percent. Expected sales amounted to 120 minus your break-even sales, which is 80,000. And then we simply divide this by 120,000, which is your expected sales. Okay, you can actually multiply this by 100 so that it becomes a percentage. And what you will get is, okay, that will give us about 33.33%. Meaning that from the break-even sales amount of 80,000, the sales exceeded by 33.33%. That's why we are not at break-even point at this level. Now we can actually proceed with short problem number 4 on page 140. So I'm going to walk you through short problem number 4. I will get you started on how to solve for it, but it is up to you to get the fixed costs. Alright, so you can actually use the formula here. And the revenues given was 200,000 pesos. Your contribution margin is 20%. This simply means that it's 20% of the revenues. So we can easily compute for that. 200,000 times 20%, that's going to be 40,000. We can actually compute for the variable costs already. That's going to be 160,000. However, we don't know the fixed costs. We don't know the operating income, but we have the margin of safety. The margin of safety is equal to 40%. And if you remember from the previous slides, the margin of safety can be computed. Margin of safety in percentage can be computed by getting expected sales, or in this case, that's your 200, minus break-even sales in pesos. So both of these are in pesos. Okay, divided by expected sales, and then multiply your answer to 100 so that you can get the percentage amount. You already have your expected sales, that's 200, but you don't have your break-even sales. But you do know how to break even, so I think you got it from here. If not, then you can clarify it with me in class. So this ends the video of CVP analysis. Good luck.